This is the Juicy Astrology for Monday, December 27th, 2021 through Saturday, January 1st, 2022. Welcome. Hello, beauties. Welcome to Crisis, Communication, and Consciousness, the Juicy Astrology for Monday, December 27th, 2021 through Saturday, January 1st, 2022. I'm Divinely Jennifer. I hope that you all had a magic-filled, merry holiday. Venus's retrograde in Capricorn certainly made for some challenging family gatherings for people. More than ever, we are being asked to tap into the energy of love in the most difficult situations, even if that also means setting boundaries in our interactions with others. Speaking of boundaries, Capricorn is all about boundaries. And with Pluto in Capricorn, joined by the Sun, retrograde Venus, Juno, and Mercury, there's no easier way for the government and corporations to manipulate people into creating a boundary, limitation, or restriction than by using fear. Pluto, all about manipulation and power and fear. It's truly fear. It's truly one of the greatest and most powerful weapons used on people. And I know I'm going to go into the shadow a little bit because that's what Pluto does, but bear with me because we're going to come right back out into the light again. So just hang on. The thing is, I'm really shocked at the lengths some officials in government, particularly in New York, California, Hawaii, and at the federal level, will go to wield their power. As we'll see with the new moon on January 2nd, which I'll cover in the next Juicy Astrology video for January 2nd to 9th, the energy of polarity is building and pressurizing. You have to choose sides, take the red pill or the blue pill. You either buy into the fear or you don't. And if you're awake to the fear, then you have control over it. That's the thing. When you're awake to the fear, when you're awake to what's happening, then you get to decide what you do with that fear. And what you decide to do with that fear is up to you as a sovereign being. And that's the beauty of being awake to it. The energy of awakening to the fear is all part of the residual energy of last week's third and final exact square between Saturn, who rules Capricorn in Aquarius, and Uranus, who rules Aquarius in Taurus. We see the future that we want to create. For many of us, it's the future of the new earth, a paradigm structured around love, abundance, Mother Earth. It's living on paradise and it's living in paradise. Go outside in nature for 5 minutes, even in all of the cold and gray, foggy, rainy weather we've had here in Northern California, and you'll encounter all sorts of miracles and magic. However, in order to materialize and actualize the new earth, old systems and paradigms, systems like conventional pharmaceutical-based healthcare, banking and finance, industrial agriculture, autocratic governments, and monopolistic corporations, they all have to break down. If you're awake to it, you see them breaking apart every day. It's extraordinary. Makes you want to grab the popcorn and pull up a chair and just watch it all happen. And because they're breaking apart, those who get their power from those systems are desperate to hold on to them. They're afraid. They don't want to lose power. It's the only way they know. So they institute more and more restrictions and limitations in the form of higher prices, reduced supply, vaccine passports and mandates, and quarantine detention centers. And here is where the astrology gets really interesting. The New York State Assembly will be reviewing Assembly Bill A416 in January. A416 is a bill that authorizes the governor and her delegates to put people into camps indefinitely if they are deemed a threat to public health through a contagious disease. No indication in the bill which specific diseases they are referring to. It's very vague and likely pretty intentionally vague. The bill also says that they can force treatment on people, including experimental injections, with the governor's authorization. What's really interesting, this is where I love astrology, is that the wording of the bill harkens back to Executive Order 9066, which American President Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed on February 19th, 1942. EO 9066 was when Roosevelt ordered Japanese Americans to be placed in internment camps against their will. They were imprisoned for being of Japanese descent, which thus made them a perceived threat for the duration of World War II. And the U.S. has since come to apologize, not that you can apologize for something like that, for their actions here and for the internment camps. So that's what was happening then, back in 1942, when FDR signed that executive order. Now, at the time the New York legislature is debating the bill, and I am sure the assembly members from upstate New York will have a lot to say about it, Venus will still be retrograde in Capricorn. Mercury will possibly be retrograde in Aquarius, depending on when they debate the bill, and we'll still be feeling the energy of the Saturn in Aquarius, Uranus in Taurus square. So hold on to that. Venus retrograde in Capricorn, Mercury possibly retrograde in Aquarius, and Saturn in Aquarius, Uranus and Taurus square. Here's where things get really juicy. At the time FDR signed Executive Order 9066, Venus and Mercury were both retrograde in Aquarius, and Saturn was approaching his conjunction to Uranus in Taurus. They only conjunct every 50 years, and you have to go back a very, very, very long time to see when they conjuncted in Taurus last. This energy of the retrogrades and Saturn and Uranus coming together, it's weird, incongruent, revolutionary energy. It's like Penny Robinson and the robot from Lost in Space getting stuck because of a broken time machine with Mao Zedong during the Spanish Civil War, and they can't figure out how to get back to where they want to go. Fast forward to the present. You could say that last week's closing square between Saturn and Uranus is activating a crisis in consciousness, where some people, in this case, the governor of New York and some members of the New York Assembly, and also some things that are happening here in California, but we'll focus on New York right now. They're upholding the principles of control and power at all costs. It's revolution in a knee-jerk reactionary way. On the other hand, those who believe in the principles of bodily autonomy and sovereignty are also experiencing a crisis in consciousness, because what is happening in New York is so anathema to their beliefs. So there's this crisis on all sides, whether you've taken the red pill or the blue pill, where we're all feeling this crisis of consciousness within. As I said a few minutes ago, this energy of polarization will intensify over the coming months. Not making a choice will not be a choice. We will be asked over and over again throughout the next several months to choose between the old and the new, love and fear, power and sovereignty, fear and freedom. If you're feeling stuck or squeezed, ask the cosmos and the divine for help, specifically in the form of loving signs and magical moments. Ask and ye shall receive. If you need help interpreting some of those cosmic signs, head on over to my website at www.divinelyjennifer.com to book an astrology and health session, where we'll tap into all of the love and magic that makes you, you. Please note that I will not be hosting a new moon webinar this month because of the virtual Venus retrograde retreat that I'm co-facilitating until the end of January. And with no further ado, let's get to the Juicy Astrology for Monday, December 27th, 2021 through Saturday, January 1st, 2022. All times listed are Pacific Standard Time, so please adjust accordingly to your time zone. Monday, December 27th, the waning moon is in Libra all day. She's feeling spiritual, loving, and innovative in the morning, but then she has a tough moment in committed partnerships later in the day. You may find yourself questioning an intimate relationship if it doesn't bring you peace and harmony. And there are no major transits today. Tuesday, December 28th, the waning moon is in Libra for the first half of the day. She wants peace in the morning. This feels like someone has overstayed their welcome, or family who has really tried to keep the peace for the holidays, but just can't hold their tongue any longer. She goes void with a trine to Jupiter at 1:10 p.m. This may feel like the first good in-breath you've taken all day. She then enters secretive, sensual, and sharing Scorpio at 1:16 p.m. She's in her fall in Scorpio, so things may be a little awkward for a couple of days. There are two important transits today. First, Mercury in Capricorn squares Eris and Aries at 2:39 p.m. They're both at 23 degrees, 42 minutes. Mercury in Capricorn wants to be respectful in his communications, as he defers somewhat to hierarchy and authority. Aries, on the other hand, doesn't believe in hierarchy, that one person's status for Aries is not above or below someone else's status. To Aries, we are all equal, and we all deserve to be heard. Pay attention to how you want to use your voice today. On the one hand, you might not want to speak your truth out of respect or fear of what others might think. On the other hand, you may want to drop a truth bomb, or several, because you are done holding back. Use the wisdom of your body to know what direction to take. Before you say or don't say what's on your heart, take a deep breath. If your throat feels constricted after you breathe, it might be wise to hold back, at least temporarily. If you feel your throat opening with your breath, let her rip. Mercury enters his retrograde shadow early tomorrow, so you'll have time to review and reevaluate any truth bombs that you give or receive. Also today, Jupiter enters Pisces at 8:09 p.m. Jupiter ventured into Pisces from May 13th to July 28th, 2021, and will be there now until May 10th, 2022, when he moves into Aries. He'll make one last foray into Pisces again from October 27th to December 20th, 2022. And then he won't return to Pisces until 2033. You can bet the world is going to be a very different place then. Pisces signifies the ocean, both literally and figuratively. Pisces represents the deep depths, what we can't see or touch, whether in the deepest parts of the oceans or the deepest parts of our soul. Pisces is about our dreams, the deepest longings of our heart, our intuition, that deep inner knowing and truth when we get our mind out of the way. Jupiter's transit through Pisces is really beautiful and expansive. Jupiter is the traditional ruler of Pisces, and he'll meet up with Neptune, the modern ruler there, in April 2022, which potentiates great floods of creativity, floods of emotion, floods of bliss and ecstasy. It really depends how the waves roll for the next few months. We can use Jupiter's time in Pisces to expand on our dreams, expand our intuition, and expand our divine love. We also have to be mindful not to get lost in a sea of emotions, EMOCEANS, or a sea of delusions. We may feel tempted to escape our woes, to drown our sorrows through substances like alcohol, cannabis, or psilocybin while Jupiter is in Pisces. The 3D world is a messed up place right now, and it can be really painful when we're tapped into the frequencies of human wounding. Try to be mindful of what and who you allow into your energetic field. You may be especially clairvoyant and clairsentient while Jupiter is in Pisces. That means clairvoyance is sight and clairsentience is feeling. So pay attention to signs from the universe because the universe has your back. Also, allow yourself extra time to dream, journal, meditate, and create right now. You may shed some tears to clear out sludge, and you may feel the cathartic need to create. Finally, Pisces is also all about our connection with the divine, the cosmos, God, source, whatever you want to call the beautiful energy that connects us all. As the world changes and shifts, as old paradigms crumble and new paradigms are birthed, make sure that you take the time to stay connected to the divine through prayer, meditation, contemplation, dance, making love, going out into nature, however you connect without using substances. The more we can stay connected to the divine, the more our hearts can expand with love. Wednesday, December 29th, the waning moon is in Scorpio all day. She has a tough morning, caught between structure and freedom, but then she gets into a good flow of partnership and sharing resources, the kind that makes you feel alive, generous, and happy. This is a very active day for the skies. First, Mercury in Capricorn enters its retrograde shadow at 1:19 a.m. That's at 24 degrees, 22 minutes of Capricorn. This is the place, 24 degrees, 22 minutes, where he will station direct in his own retrograde on February 3rd. In the meantime, pay attention to the messages and communications you give and receive. Expect there to be changes and revisions to communications from the government and corporations in particular until mid-February. They're trying to spin the information just so, but if you don't buy it now, you're certainly not going to buy it then. Then Mercury conjuncts retrograde Venus at 24 degrees, 26 minutes of Capricorn at 2:27 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Even in her retrograde, Venus is still all about love. Is there a way that you can communicate with love even when you need to create boundaries with someone? This past weekend, I had a long conversation with my honey about this concept, this seeming paradox of seeing someone through the eyes of divine love and innocence, but still needing to set boundaries with them and create structures around what is communicated and how. As Mercury will station retrograde on his own on January 14th, and is now in his retrograde shadow, as I mentioned. This could very well be one of the biggest lessons for us during the Venus retrograde, to learn how to stand our ground, feet and roots firmly planted in Mother Earth, in our sovereignty and divine expression, when someone tries to manipulate us, coerce us, or mandate restrictions upon us, especially restrictions rooted in 3D principles like fear, control, and power. When I say 3D, I mean third dimension, kind of that lower vibration of energy versus a higher dimension like the fourth or fifth dimension that is more rooted in love. Keep reminding yourself, no one can take away your power. We give it away, sometimes freely and willingly, sometimes not. We may say, so-and-so made us do it, or we had to do it, but that's not really true. We either keep our power, use it for the greater good, or we give it away, sometimes not for the greater good. With this transit, the beginning of a 1-year cycle, as Mercury and Venus will conjunct again in this exact spot, 24 degrees of Capricorn, in exactly 1 year on December 29th, 2022. Write yourself a letter to read on that date, where you share how to create a foundation of love in your communications while also being sovereign and willing to set boundaries, especially against authorities who want to take your power away. And then put that letter in a safe space and bring it out again, December 29th, 2022. Later that day, the sun in Capricorn squares Chiron and Aries at 3:53 p.m. They're both at 8 degrees, 29 minutes. This closing square between the sun, source of heat and light, in the sign of government and restriction, and the wounded healer in the sign of individuality and self-interest. This is so rich. How has your purpose changed since March 29th, 2021, when they came together in Aries? Are you shining your light in a new way? If not, what is one courageous way you could do so today? What gifts are you craving to share with the world? Gifts that you know can heal some of the pain beings experience. Your gifts matter, no matter how big or small. your gifts matter. And finally today, Mars in Sagittarius, sextile Saturn in Aquarius at 4:21 p.m. They're both at 11 degrees, 41 minutes. This is a closing sextile of a 2-year cycle that began on March 31st, 2020, when Mars and Saturn came together at 0 degrees, 39 minutes of Aquarius. Saturn, the planet of structures, boundaries, and commitments, had moved into Aquarius, the sign of innovation, technology, and community, just 10 days before the conjunction, and would stay there for 3 months before retrograding back into Capricorn to finish up the loose ends of his 2+ year transit through the sign he rules, which is Capricorn. Mars in Aquarius is really beautifully personified by Elon Musk, whose natal Mars is, in fact, in Aquarius. He's a very hard worker. Friends used to publicly state their concern for his health because of his long hours getting Tesla off the ground. He's quirky, unconventional, misunderstood because he's so far ahead of his time. And yet there is still a boy underneath all that scientific genius looking to be loved. Now, Mars is in Sagittarius, having a grand adventure. I mean, life is one big adventure and learning experiment, right? So Mars, the adolescent male, calls Saturn, his dad, from a distant location where they have Wi-Fi. Mars is full of laughter, if not a little high on something. Dad says, hey, you would better enjoy your adventures while you can, because you're going to have to look after Venus soon, after her retrograde. There are a lot of people who want to take advantage of her divine love and innocence, and she'll be better off if she has your protection. Hearing this sobers Mars up a little bit, who promises Dad that he'll look after Venus when she finishes her retrograde. He needs no motivation because he has a crush on Venus because she's so lovely. Whether she's a morning star or an evening star, she's always beautiful. He would do anything for her, and that is not a lie. That is the darn truth. Take a moment with his transit to ask for divine guidance and courage wherever you need it, especially to take a step towards something you are committed to. Thursday, December 30th. Today is another big day for the cosmos. The waning moon in Scorpio is feeling loving and empowered. She has a way with words. She goes void with an opposition to Ceres in Taurus at 1:05 p.m. Our pants may start to feel a little tight from all the holiday eating. Sorry, I've got this on my lap. Yes, on my lap again. She wants love. Yeah. Are you sharing my lap? Are you sharing my lap? Where was I? The moon goes void with an opposition to Ceres in Taurus at 1:05 p.m. Our pants may start to feel a little tight from all the holiday eating. Our bank accounts might start to feel a little tight from all the holiday spending. So those are the 2 areas to watch for. She then moves into adventurous, studious, and spiritual Sagittarius at 3:08 p.m. Watch for signs from the universe in the afternoon. There are 3 major transits today. First, Mercury makes his first of 3 conjunctions to Pluto in Capricorn at 1:53 a.m. That happens at 25 degrees, 53 minutes of Capricorn. They'll meet again on January 28th when Mercury's retrograde, and February 11th after he's stationed direct again. Mercury is the messenger. He's all about communication. Pluto is all about wealth and power, and right now he's a bit like the Grinch after he meets little Susie in Whoville. There's a slight softening in his heart because Venus is so close. On the shadow side, this could indicate more restrictions being communicated around the world. The fear messaging is so thick right now, you could cut it with a proverbial knife. On the other hand, you could take advantage of this transit by committing to turning off the news or any communications that do not serve your inner child or your highest self, or that make you want to give up your power. Mercury and Pluto meet up approximately every 359 days. So the fact that they are meeting up 3 times in 6 weeks is auspicious. Really look at the communications you give and receive at this time. How empowered and sovereign can you be while still incorporating the divine love and innocence of your highest self? An hour later, at 2:57 a.m., Vesta in Sagittarius trines Eris and Aries. They're both at 23 degrees, 41 minutes. And everything around 23, 24, 25 degrees of your chart is getting really activated right now. I love this transit though. The wise priestess, Vesta, and the wounded feminine, Eris, come together every 32 to 45 lunar cycles, give or take. This is a closing trine from their last conjunction in 2019. They'll meet again in April of 2023. I don't know about you, but I really struggle with the chaos I inadvertently leave in my wake among my friends and family who believe in the mainstream perspectives after I've spent some time or talked with them. I feel like such an outsider sometimes because I've done so much damn work on myself for the last 25 years. When I think of all the money I spent on personal development and education, most of it has been worthwhile. But Sagittarius is my second house, and Jupiter's there in the second house too. So I've spent a lot of money on studying, learning, and spirituality. Now, Vesta in Sagittarius is not a personal development junkie, thank goodness. She is the wise, gorgeous goddess leading the initiations of our heroines and heroes' journeys, teaching us how to embody all that we have learned. She sees that Eris is frustrated by all the people giving up their individual freedoms and sovereignty like sheeple to the slaughter. Oh, and if you haven't seen The Matrix Resurrections yet, you must stay to the very end. Neil Patrick Harris totally steals the show. Vesta reminds Eris that we each have our individual journey. We can't wake anyone up before they are ready to wake themselves up. This is a theme in the movie too, in Matrix Resurrections. You can't wake anybody up. They have to wake up themselves. We can only love them and be responsible for our own journey. That's pretty good advice, eh? I could use some Vesta right now. Finally, today, retrograde Venus in Capricorn squares Eris and Aries at 7:38 p.m. They're at 23 degrees, 41 minutes, the same point as Vesta's trine with Eris 15 hours earlier. So like I said, if you have anything in your chart at 23 degrees, 24, 25, you may feel these transits extra. This is the second of their three squares. My God, dog, you're going to make me crazy. Oh. Excuse me. This is the second of their three squares. The first was on December 7th. The last will be on February 11th, the same day as Mercury's third conjunction to Pluto. That is a big week in astrology from about February 10th, to February 17th, and then again, February 20th. Just mark your calendars for that time in February. If you listen to the Juicy Astrology for December 7th, you may remember that I had relayed a story about how I was teased by a boy in the 5th grade and how so often adults don't empower children when they are bullied or teased. By the time we become adults ourselves, we have lost our innocence through the trials and tribulations of childhood and adolescence. Likewise, in addition to teasing, bullying, or worst of all, exploitation, being rejected as a child can be deeply wounding. This is because we come into the world already bearing the collective wound of rejection in our DNA. So it doesn't matter how devoted and loving our parents and family may be while we're growing up. We still carry the shadow of the rejection wound inside us. It impacts many of our actions and indications throughout our lives because we fear being rejected in its countless forms, from friends, lovers, society, etc. This transit may bring up the wounds of rejection or abandonment for you, whether for people, for yourself rather as an individual, or for a group of people. What words of love can you speak to your inner child when this fear or this wound arises within you? You may also be called to lend your voice to another as an advocate, someone who doesn't have a voice or whose voice is too quiet, especially when it comes to sovereignty, freedom, and well-being. You don't have to take no for an answer if you're advocating for somebody. Friday, December 31st, the last day of 2021, the waning moon in Sagittarius is full of piss and vinegar today, even though she is now in her dark phase before the moon or the new moon. Consider participating in a vigorous and thoughtful workout before heading off to New Year's festivities, preferably something that invigorates you rather than exhausts you. There's only one major transit today, which will be on January 1st for most of you. At 11:07 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Mercury in Capricorn trines retrograde series in Taurus. They're both at 28 degrees, 36 minutes. This transit helps us to be more creative in our communications, especially those that require discipline and/or commitment and/or boundaries. Ceres is the loving goddess of conception, fertility, and creativity. She's the young woman ready to become a mother, whether for the first or the seventh time. She's at home and comfortable in Taurus. For this transit, when that saying, you can attract more flies with honey than vinegar, definitely applies. Try bringing some Ceres love and charm to a difficult conversation. They may not be able to say no to you. And finally, Saturday, January 1st. Happy New Year. If you want to know more about the significance of the numerology of 2022, you'll want to follow my dear friend Lisa. She's the numerology catalyst on her Telegram channel, Numerology of Wealth. She and I will be collaborating throughout 2022 to share some of the synergies and synchronicities between the astrology and numerology of what is going to be a very important year and has the potential to be the best year yet if we can tap into the magic of the divine. Today, the waning moon in Sagittarius may feel like a martyr. In Sagittarius, she's willing to sacrifice in the name of spirituality and principle. Be mindful of whatever swords you may be inclined to fall on, whatever beliefs you'd be willing to die for. Because the moon is dark, you're better off waiting to plant the seeds of inspiration with a new moon instead, when you can take advantage of the nourishment of the sun and waxing moon. Likewise, today is the close of the Sagittarius lunar cycle, which was an eclipse and all about releasing and letting go. She goes void at 6:54 a.m. with a conjunction to Vesta and is void all morning before moving into Capricorn at 3:02 p.m. This is not a day to initiate. Just hold off until tomorrow if you can to initiate something. And there are two major transits today. First, at 1:49 a.m., the sun in Capricorn trines retrograde Uranus in Taurus. They're both at 10 degrees, 56 minutes. Think back to April 30th, 2021. What innovative or unconventional projects were you working on, especially in the realms of individual worth, values, and sustainability? Were you excited or nervous about the future, or both? I was just 12 days away from launching my website and YouTube channel as Divinely Jennifer. It was so nerve-wracking and incredible all at the same time. I was stepping way out of my comfort zone, and I knew that I was going to be stepping into my purpose and shining my light in a whole new way. What was happening for you at this time? I'd love it if you put it in the comments below. How can you shine your light now to help innovate new systems or break down old ones on behalf of the new earth? This transit generates a lightning bolt of inspiration to share what we're working on with the world. You may also feel especially intuitive and energized. Sometimes a literal or figurative earthquake or revolution is exactly what we need to get things moving. Speaking of innovation, Mercury the Messenger enters idealistic Aquarius at 11:09 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. He'll be here until January 25th, when he'll retrograde back into Capricorn until February 14th. Mercury is full of ideas in Aquarius, especially ideas that impact the whole of society, the collective, the greater good, and the future. He can be emotionally detached here, so he might say something that others take personally. Don't let your undies get into a twist if you hear something that seems way out there. There's a joke going around among my friends online that says, "What's the difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth?" Answer, about a year. Get it? But a bunch. That's Mercury in Aquarius. Let yourself have a little fun and imagination with your futuristic and visionary ideas while Mercury is in Aquarius. You never know which ones will eventually turn into seeds and take root in the spring. Better yet, get together with your friends, ideally in person or even virtually, and have some fun imagining all the love and abundance of the new Earth paradigm. Do be mindful to listen to your intuition and intuitive flashes during this time. Your intuition will help you decipher what is true for you, and your intuitive flashes will guide you into that place where your intelligence meets your imagination. And what a transformational place that can be. Okay, loves, this last quarter of the lunar cycle, the Sagittarius lunar cycle, has a lot of activity. Be ready to plant seeds and mean it during the Capricorn lunar cycle that begins on January 2nd. It may be cold out there, but there is no better time than now to shine your light. If you're wondering where you can most brightly shine your light, head over to my website at www.divinelyjennifer.com to book an astrology and health session. Even if you've had an astrology reading before, you've never had an astrology and health reading, especially where we incorporate the goddesses and the relationship of the sun and the moon to activate your inner and outer vitality. What an awesome way to start your 2022. Have a very happy New Year, loves. Despite what they say on the news, this truly has the potential to be the best year yet. I love you. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a beautiful week and take care of yourself. I'm Divinely Jennifer, and I'll see you the next time.